England have done the business against the West Indies. They've managed to down Jason Holder's team by 8 wickets on the day. The bowlers set things up. 3 wicket hauls for both Mark Wood and Jofra Archer, and a very significant 2-4 by Joe Root, who'd eventually go on to score his 16th ODI 100 to cap what's been an excellent day for the English Test captain. That after the ODI captain went off with back spasm and Jason Roy went off injured, and other than Nicholas Pooran, no one really showed any fight from a West Indies point of view. We're still in conversation about that game on ESPN Cricinfo Matchday UK 2019. So welcome back to our viewers in the Caribbean, and a very warm welcome to our viewers on ESPN Cricinfo. There are questions that have been raised as a result of this West Indies performance, which has been the complete opposite to what we've seen West Indies be on their good days, like they were against Pakistan and they were for long periods against Australia. And even Jason Holder's reflected on a number of those. So we will take that conversation forward now with Darren Ganga joining us from Trinidad, as well as Ajit, Agarkar and Mike Hussey in studio. So let me pick off where Jason Holder starts in that presentation. Says it's happened 2 games now, which is almost an admission that there is a problem in the middle order. Nasser asks him the question regarding, is there a bit of 2020 going on and you're not adjusting to the longish format? And he says there is some irresponsibility by middle order batting. Is that where the issue lies for you, the middle order of the West Indies? Because that turns out, that looks like it's a key component to their success.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think they'll be concerned about it because they got themselves into a position where they could have really pushed on, and they just gave a few wickets away with some loose shots, as Jason Holder said. So they do need to tighten up in that area. I think there's some class there, though. You know, there's Shy Hope in there. Pooran looks a really good player. Hetmeyer can be really dangerous, but they just need to keep doing it for a bit longer. I think part of the other problem is how they use Andre Russell. If he looked 50% fit at best today, and if he's not fit, it's better off maybe not playing him at all, and maybe bringing a specialist player in there to play that particular role.
Is that the way the West Indies have to function to click, that one of their 50 over players, if we can call them that, Shai Hope, Evan Lewis, Chris Gayle, someone has to bat along with these big hitters? If you leave 2 of them together, then you tend to get this. Is that a good enough excuse for you?
Not at all. I think, I mean, they're picked as batsmen. So you can't say just because the top orders failed, that's the way we'll bat and just move on. You know, if it works, great, people applaud, you know, a 20 ball 50 or a 60.
I mean,
if it doesn't work, that's the way we play.
Australia have shown you can come back. England have shown you can come back after top order collapse.
Yeah, I mean, especially when your bowling's doing okay at the moment. Okay, today they didn't have a great day, but the bowling's doing okay at the moment. But you don't want to, you at least want to give yourself enough chance to get some sort of runs. I mean, 212 was never going to challenge. Okay, they were a bit optimistic at the break that there might be a bit of cloud cover around, might do something, get some wickets with the new ball. I think England's far too good a team to let that happen once they get off to a start. So, I mean, I said at the start, I think batting, all your departments need to function, but today I think batting's got to take the blame for West Indies.
I think Jason Holder's trying to get in touch with you.
But he's had enough of me.
But I'll before I go to Darren, I want you to give me your thoughts on what Huss said. If Andre Russell is not 60-70% fit, or if he's only 50% fit, he's not 100%, are the West Indies better off going without him?
100%. I think, as good as he is, or as good as he's been in the T20 format, if he's hitting every ball and holding his wrist, or if he's running in or taking a single or running into bowl every time and holding his knee, I was a little bit surprised that they decided to play him today if he wasn't quite ready. They've still got 5 more games.
Yes.
There's plenty of cricket to be played. You'd rather have 100% fit Andre Russell than sort of 50% like Huss said, and then we don't quite know what the extent of this injury is now.
Yes.
He might be out of the tournament for all you know, with the amount of pain that he's been carrying. So a strange decision today, but you'd rather not have a player who's not fit enough to play for field 50 overs or bat in a certain way. And if he's just going to come out and slog, and if it works, great. If it doesn't, that's the way I bat. I don't think that's a good enough excuse when you're playing for your country.
Okay, let's go to Darren Ganga, who's already teased this conversation in terms of the options that the West Indies have. And they do have options, Darren. They haven't even used Fabian Allen. Ashley Nurse has had nothing to do. But if you are to look beyond Andre Russell, there's experience in the ODI format, in the likes of Dwayne Bravo, Kyron Pollard, that are waiting in case someone like Russell is not to take part further in the tournament. Ajit makes a good point. If he wasn't fit, why play him today when it's a long tournament? You could have given him the time to recover and brought him when he was closer to 100%.
What I'd like to say is before I answer that, Ronak, is in the recent series against England, where the West Indies drew 2-2, Andre Russell didn't feature in any of the matches there. So that's a point I'd like to make in terms of his contributions in that series. He was part of the squad but didn't play. Now, at the moment, the West Indies, they're picking 3 all-rounders, and 3 all-rounders in that of Jason Holder, who's a genuine all-rounder, Andre Russell and Carlos Brathwaite. What they're expecting with Carlos Brathwaite and Andre Russell is productivity to the tune of 1 genuine all-rounder, and they're hoping that will happen. That has not happened at all. That's why I keep advocating that 3 all-rounders is not working and will not work for the West Indies, because what it's doing, it's taking away from either specialist batsman in this squad or a specialist bowler. So you're starting against any opposing team on the back foot. The other thing is, if a guy is not fit and is 50% fit, I think that is really an indictment on the technical team, especially when you've got reserves and you've got players who can probably contribute more meaningfully to a team. To play a guy who bats at number 7 and a guy who is not going to guarantee bowling at least 5 overs, then I think you're starting against an opposing team with 10 players. And this is a World Cup, to be quite honest. So many questions. In terms of the reserves, yes, Karen Pollard, he's been named in the reserve list of players, so too Dwayne Bravo. So I think that technical team has to sit down and probably get information from the medical panel as to, what's the status of Andre Russell? Can he contribute going forward in this tournament? Is it worthwhile having an Andre Russell that might play the last 2 games in this preliminary or league stage? Is that going to be worthwhile to the team? Those are, I say, the hard questions that needs to be answered, and I think that will be in the best interest of West Indies for the remainder of this World Cup.
Okay, that's very pertinent points you raise. Before I go back to the West Indies batting, which is I think the fair conversation to have after this sort of defeat, I must compliment you, Darren Ganga. You've been calling for Chris Gayle to do some bowling in this tournament, and bowling 5 overs and 5 pretty steady overs with those rather let's just call them subtle shades that he puts on, has given at least Jason Holder the confidence that he can have him as an all-round option, which may play into his team selection going forward. You must be pretty pleased with that.
Of course, and I think it proves the point and amplifies the point that he's shortchanging himself by not playing either a specialist batsman or a bowler. He can bolster both departments of the game with an additional player because of that option. I think that, to me, is one of the positive things coming out of this encounter. The second and most significant would be that of Nicholas Pooran and the manner in which he batted. I mean, you look at this West Indies team for the last 2 years. I mean, this is a team that has not won a one-day series in about 14 or 15 attempts on the trot. So it's an inconsistent team, and I think it sort of pushes us in the direction of a deeper issue in West Indian cricket, and I spoke about it. Many of these players are spending 80 or 90% of their cricketing year playing T20 cricket with little or no database of first-class cricket or the longer format. So to adapt consistently, and I use the word adapt consistently across formats, is always going to be a challenge. That is why this team will continue to achieve sporadic success in ODI cricket and possibly in the longer version of the game as well.
Okay, let's continue this conversation on the West Indies batting. And dare I say, as much as we talk about the West Indies as a T20 specialist team, Hassan, I'll start with you. Every team, or rather a lot of teams in the World Cup, we have this conversation, top 3 is so important. Say that about India, we say that about Pakistan, we say that about England, we say that about Australia even.
Yeah,
any team. So in fairness, let's leave the middle order out for a bit. Let's talk about the West Indies top 3. Chris Gayle, Evan Lewis, Shai Hope, or even without Evan Lewis, if they had to go, Gayle, Shai Hope, Darren Bravo. Are you expecting more from them, given what you know of the rest of the team? And is that something that the West Indies aren't quite getting?
Short answer is yes.
Yeah.
You want 100 coming from one of your top 3. If you get 100 from one of those players, then you're going to put a total on the board that is going to be at least very, very competitive. Or if you're chasing, you're going to be able to chase down the total. We've seen it so far in this tournament where we saw the Warner against Pakistan, Shikhar Dhawan against Australia. The guys that make hundreds generally go on and win the game. So yes, they need to take the responsibility. I think the other thing that you need to remember, in a 50-over game, You've got more time than what you think. We all think, okay, teams are going to need 350, 400 on the board, but take that out of it. If you just set up your innings properly, spend a bit of time, you can always catch up later, especially with the field restrictions there are these days. So I think we sort of look at this West Indian team, we think, oh, they're T20 players, they're exciting, they're going to smash it around all over the place. But you still can take a little bit more time, and you've got more time than what you think. We say that in T20 cricket. We say this to our young batters. You've got more time than what you think. Well, you've got an eternity in 50-over cricket when you think of it like that.
Ajit?
I mean, 140 odd for 3. You set yourself up. It's not like West Indies have started poorly, especially after losing the toss. I think there was a question post-match by Nasser that tough toss to lose, but they'd done the hard bit. And from there on, to just throw it away, like, I don't think that too many good teams or consistent teams in world cricket at 144 for 3 will fold at 212. Might be at odd occasion, but in general, I don't think it'll happen. And England bowled well and was consistent, but you could see the pitch just improving as the game went on. And okay, the sun came out and the conditions completely changed after the break. But even when West Indies lost all those wickets, they looked decent for batting. So to fold as quickly as they did, there is a problem there. I mean, to play 50 overs, there's a problem. Hopefully, like I said, we've seen the worst game that they could possibly play.
That's behind them.
Because they've got some players who can win games on their own. Whether they can win 6 or 7, I'm not so sure.
Sure, I mean, you talk India, England or Australia at 140 for 3, even New Zealand, and you think they're at least going to get somewhere beyond 260, 270, whatever it might be. And it's not like Jofra Archer came in and bowled 2 snotters. It was Joe Root that got 2 soft wickets, and then from there they just went pear-shaped for the West Indies. Let's give full credit to England, though. This has been a critical analysis of the West Indies, but we must credit Owen Morgan's side, who, despite those slight concerns regarding injuries to their 2 premier batsmen, have managed to make this a rather clinical effort. Let's go to Alexis Nunes and Graem Swann now, who I'm sure will be very delighted and is already thinking that half the World Cup is England's to lose from.
Well, Ronak, the sun has finally come out in Southampton. I'm still not very happy, though, but Swanee is definitely a happy man. A very convincing win. It's coming home. We'll see about that, but at least came home today. England with a big 8-wicket win over the West Indies here. The West Indies really and truly never clicking with the bat or the ball or in the field, but let's start off with England in this chase. We knew that it wasn't really going to be a tough chase for England, but Joe Root, absolute class once again.
Well, absolutely. He is the best player we've ever had, in my view. And to come in to open the batting when you haven't done it for a long time showed his class. And he scored a brilliant 100. He never panicked. He loves the short ball. The West Indies really missed a trick, bowling short and fast to Bairstow and Root. That is meat and drink to them. They should have slowed it down from the start. And he gave England the perfect platform, 100 from the first 15 overs with makeshift opening pair. Who needs Jason Roy? Who needs Owen Morgan?
I was just going to ask
Our
you that
squad
because
can win this World Cup.
You were slightly worried when Jason Roy wasn't going to be able to open this innings. And now that we've seen this from Joe Root, do you think we'll see Joe Root in this position again? Should Jason Roy, not trying to jinx him or anything, not be able to recover quick enough, at least for the next couple of games?
Well, it's brilliant backup, but ideally you'd have Joe Root batting in his preferred position in the middle order. I've heard that Jason Roy's hamstring isn't as bad as they feared. I've heard that Owen Morgan was a back spasm rather than cruciate ligaments that I said. Never been a physio in my life. And so, yeah, hopefully these injuries won't be too bad. They'll probably miss the next game. But Joss Butler's an able replacement as vice-captain. And the rest of the batsmen are all looking good, Nick. Even Chris Wokes went to number 3 and got 40 odd.
Exactly. Imagine that. We'll get to the West Indies in just a bit, but before we finish wrapping up about England and the grade that you would give them, we know that it was far from a perfect day. There's still things I'm sure you'd like to see them improve on. What would those things be?
Well, there's a couple of drop catches. Their fielding hasn't been to the excellent standard that you'd expect from England, and that's got them to number 1 over the past couple of years. But all in all, I wouldn't pick fault with this performance. It was brilliant with the ball. They won the toss, that helped. They did have the helpful conditions. We did have West Indies' best bowler playing for us. Thank you again.
Jofra
Archer. And then we batted superbly. So Joe Root is a class player. That was like a net for him, but a really high intensity one because he was getting bounced, and that really gets your beans going as a batsman. So thank you very much. You've got Joe Root in, Nick, as well. West Indies, we love you.
I'm sure you do love the West Indies, but unfortunately we did not love today. Just quickly, your assessment on them and where they should go from here.
Well, after the start they had a perfect platform, 140 for 3. Losing those 2 wickets to Joe Root again, bowling his off spin, was a killer blow. Then there's the debate over Andre Russell. Should he have played? You'd say no with hindsight, but you don't have that, obviously. Being dropped, then hitting a couple of big sixes, looking like he could be dangerous, then getting out. It looked really bad in the overall scheme of things because Nicholas Pooran got out straight away afterwards to a good ball from Jofra Archer. So I'm not going to have a go at Russell. That's the way he plays. He could have changed that game for the West Indies and got them a total of 300, which realistically was the only way they could win that game.
Well, as we keep talking about, the West Indies, much like Pakistan, when it's their day, it's their day. But when it's not, things like what happened today indeed happen. So Swanny's a very happy man today. He's going to take me to try cheer me up, perhaps buy me a slice of cake or two, or find me a nice West Indian bar somewhere here. But for now, it's back to you guys.
Oh, brilliant. Alexis Nunes with Graem. Swann very confident of England's chances now. More with Darren Gangas as well as Ajit and Michael Hussey at the other side. Stay with us on ESPN Cricinfo Matchday UK 2019.
Chris Gayle and Marlon Samuels put on 372 runs for the second wicket in a World Cup match against Zimbabwe in 2015. This is obviously the highest partnership for any wicket across World Cups. In fact, in 11 editions, only 9 teams have scored more than this single partnership. To be fair, this partnership did last almost an entire innings, with the West Indies losing their first wicket off the second ball and their second wicket off the final ball.
Play Cricket Picks, the new predictor game from ESPN Cricinfo. Make predictions, pick your winners, and track your progress throughout the tournament. Go to espncricinfo.com/cricketpicks and play today. Something easier? Put your tipping to the test. Play
England continue to flex some serious muscle in this World Cup. It has the English fans very excited. Graeme Swann already thinks the tournament is theirs. But they do have some questions that need answered. They'll be waiting on the fitness of their captain Eoin Morgan as well as Jason Roy. And while we're hearing it's not as bad as Dr. Graeme Swann made it sound at half-time, it's not the worst set of fixtures coming up for them, with due respect to Afghanistan and Sri Lanka. Those are England's next 2 games before that massive finish to the league phase against Australia, India and New Zealand before the semi-finals. So that's a wrap from an English point of view. Let me add one word on Darren Ganga to sum up the West Indies, or maybe rather look forward to the West Indies. They got Bangladesh, which is a game now that assumes great importance, Darren. Otherwise, that great start and that optimism that the West Indies had about them could all just evaporate very quickly. Quick turnaround. I think Monday is the game against Bangladesh. Take me through the changes that you need to make immediately, assuming Andre Russell is exactly as fit as he is today.
Yeah, I think they will need to make a call on Andre Russell, whether or not he remains to play a part later in this league stage. That is a call that has to be made. The other thing is they've got to try and work on their approach. I mean, there's a lot of technology around cricket these days, and one approach that might have worked against Pakistan very early in a competition is showing yourself to the rest of the opposing teams as to what your approach will be. So that predictability factor in the manner in which they bowl, they will need to be a little more adaptable as a team, adaptable to the opposition that they're playing, adaptable to the conditions as well. Those are subtle variations that I'd like to see from this West Indies team overall. Yes, they're known for a team that is very good in terms of their power play, but sometimes the opposing team, the conditions doesn't allow for that type of play. And I would just like to see a little more application, more versatility in the approach. So instead of being your best in terms of power hitting, try to be 75% and get the job done for the team. It's a World Cup. So instead of aiming for 300, if you're in a situation where you're 200, aim for 275 and give yourself a chance of at least winning a game and getting 2 points. That will be crucial. Points now become, very precious. The opposing fixture against Bangladesh is not going to be an easy one. Bangladesh in recent times, they've gotten the better of the West Indies in ODI cricket, and more recently, the West Indies would have had the chance to play against Bangladesh in the Tri-Nation Series in Ireland. So that is an important fixture. I would like to see Darren Bravo back in this squad to bring more depth to this batting, and again, 2 all-rounders being played as against 3.
All right, Darren Ganga, are you going to catch up on some sleep now, or are you going to get on the phone with Floyd Reefer and Jason Holder right away?
Yeah, well, I think I may have to console quite a number of West Indians who would be very disappointed with today's encounter.
All right, Darren, an absolute pleasure. We'll get your thoughts ahead of that game between Bangladesh and the West Indies. Darren Ganga joining us from Trinidad. We'll continue to hear Darren's thoughts as this tournament goes on. Now, reaction of that game is that England see themselves sent further to the top half of the table. They're just behind New Zealand now and in second place where they'd want to be. Australia and India, in spite of India not playing much and Australia's blip against India at the Oval, still in the top 4. And as the tournament pans out, if you did hedge your bets on those 4 teams finishing in the top 4, it's looking all right after just the initial few games at least. Let's talk a little bit about Australia. They're in action. They've bounced back well against after the India defeat against Pakistan. They've got another Asian giant up against them. Say that carefully though. Sri Lanka, we almost forgot they're still around in the tournament. They haven't played anything since that game against Afghanistan. Terrible weather, terrible luck with the weather has followed them around. But back come Australia at the Oval, so too Sri Lanka. And you would think that Australia, in spite of not playing their best cricket, if that's fair to say, Huss, do start this game as favourites.
Oh, I think they definitely start as favourites, no question about that. I actually feel a bit for Sri Lanka. They've in a tournament like the World Cup, you not want to get those good hard games under your belt, so you've got some momentum and match hardness, I guess, coming into these big games, and they just haven't had it because of the weather. Whereas Australia, on the other hand, have had 2 really tough games, one against India, one against Pakistan. So they'll feel very confident coming into this one. Sri Lanka need a result. They need a good performance as well, because I get the sense that the top 4 are just pulling away from the bottom half at the moment. So I see this one as a really important one, and also the India versus Pakistan match coming up on Sunday. If those results go as expected, then there is a bit of a gap starting to form.
It's an opportunity for Australia to play perhaps their ideal 11, or what could be a more balanced 11, which is something they're missing with Marcus Stoinis' injury, Ajit?
I don't think... It's a tough one. I mean, I think Aaron Finch said last time that when you lose an all-rounder, it's sometimes a bit difficult whether you pick a batter or a bowler. They went the other way, picked the batter. I think they've learned their lesson. I think almost cost them the game. There was still 1 over left of that 5th bowler, and if Pakistan had enough batters left, I think they would have cruised to a win. So I think they're likely to get either Zampa or even Nathan Lyon into that lineup, because the batting's looking quite good at this point, especially with Warner now getting that 100 as well. Finch getting some runs. Smiths look good. So there's enough batting at the top of the order, which is in good shape. You don't need too much at 7, 8, 9 to bowl. You need bowling. And at the moment, Australia, if there's any sort of weakness in their team, it's in their bowling, and they need to fix that
I'm told Steve Smith spent a lot of time bowling in the nets today for Australia, which could be an indication of the direction they want to take.
Yeah, that's the one area I'm with Ajit. I think that's the one area of concern. That 5th bowling option, do they just try and bolster it there? But there's also a heavy reliance on Stark and Pat Cummins. The rest of the bowlers have been probably just short of the mark, so they'll want to tidy that up tomorrow against Sri Lanka.
Yeah, that's the first game on Saturday at the Oval. The second one is pretty straightforward, because between South Africa and Afghanistan at Cardiff, you know that Afghanistan will probably win easy. So the sort of form they've been in, this could be just the game they want, South Africa, or just the worst possible game if Afghanistan get over them.
No, I think they'd rather take Afghanistan again, with due respect to Afghanistan. I don't think Afghanistan's covered themselves in glory this World Cup. Unfortunately, we've seen them play better. Hopefully they raise their game and make it hard for South Africa, but you'd think that South Africa should win this one easy if they play well enough.
If there ever was a win needed to just lift a team. now for
South Africa must win. If they're going to have any chance in this tournament, they have to put in a really good, strong performance against Afghanistan, get some momentum, get some continuity going with their game, because they've got to play well tomorrow. Big game for them.
Yeah, I mean, keep an eye out on that game. It may not be as one-sided as you'd think with the sort of confidence and form that South Africa have been in. And Afghanistan, like Ajit said, haven't quite been the romantic fairy tale that they've been in previous tournaments, and let's see if they can put up a better show. You'll have both Ajit Agarkar and Mike Hussey building up to that game tomorrow, gentlemen. Thank you very much. You've actually done some work for a change, both of you. Last couple of days we had nothing to do.
Good to see you too.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, we'll see you tomorrow then. Ajit Agarkar, Mike Hussey and myself will be on for the Australia-Sri Lanka game, and extensive coverage for South Africa via Afghanistan as well. Thanks for joining us on ESPN Cricinfo Matchday UK 2019.